The same code is running on two machines. It's green on the laptop, and on the server it won't even start. Look at why. There's a different Python, a different SSL library, and pip resolved different packages. Hence the sentence everybody has said at least once. Docker exists to end that sentence, and these are 20 concepts in 3 groups, each one with the command you actually type. By concept 12, you'll be typing 11 flags by hand. And one of these takes an image from 1.2 gigabytes down to 80 megabytes. This is Act 1, and it covers the 5 nouns everything else is built from. 2 of them get mixed up constantly, and that makes everything afterwards confusing, so I want to separate those 2 first. Number 1 is the container, and I'll start with what it isn't. That box is an image, sitting on disk, read-only, doing nothing at all. A container is one running instance of that image. Here's the part people miss. These 3 containers share the one image rather than each getting a copy. A container is really a process with its own view of the file system and network. It isn't a small computer, and there's no operating system inside it. Number 2 is the image, and it isn't a single file. It's a stack of layers, and right now we don't have any of them locally. When you pull it, the layers arrive from the bottom up. Debian, Python, the packages, then your files. All 4 are read-only and shared by every container. Layers only ever add, though. If you delete a file in a later layer, it's still down there, which is how secrets get shipped inside images. Number 3 is the Dockerfile. It's plain text in your repo with 1 instruction per line, and it's the recipe your image gets built from. Watch how the lines map. From gives you the base layer, copy adds a layer with your code, and CMD adds no layer, just metadata. Each instruction is a cache layer, so the order matters enormously. Put whatever changes least at the top, or you'll rebuild everything every single time. Number 4 is the build. 2 things go into it, the recipe and that dot on the end, which is the build context. Look at what comes out. The base is cached, the dependencies are cached, and only your code layer was actually rebuilt. That's the layer cache paying off. That dot ships every file underneath it to the daemon. Point it at a folder containing node modules, and you're uploading hundreds of megabytes. Number 5 is run. And it's the verb that turns the read-only thing into a running thing by adding 1 writable layer on top. The important part is what happens next. Whatever you told it to run becomes process ID 1 inside the container, or PID1 for short. There's no background here, so when PID1 exits, the container is over. That's why a container running a shell script simply stops. This is Act 2, and the thing to hold on to is that a container is sealed off from everything around it. That's the whole point of it, and it's also the problem, so here are 7 ways to make a controlled hole in that wall. Number 6 is port mapping. The app inside is listening on port 3000 quite happily, and your browser still gets connection refused. The container's ports belong to the container. -p forwards one host port to one container port, and now the request actually lands. The order is what people get wrong. The host goes left of the colon, and the container goes right. Swap them and nothing answers. Number 7 is volumes. This container wrote to /data and then it was removed, so watch what happened to the data. A named volume lives outside the container's lifecycle, so the container can go away and the data stays. That's the entire idea. Docker decides where it physically lives, so don't go hunting for the path on your host. Refer to it by name and let Docker manage it. Number 8 is mounting, because creating a volume does nothing on its own. It exists here, and neither container can see it yet. -v attaches it at a path inside. Volume name on the left, container path on the right. Both containers now share the same files. Nothing coordinates those 2 writers. Docker gives you shared storage, not locking, so if they both write the same file, that's entirely your problem. Number 9 is bind mounts. You're editing files on your host, and the container is running the copy that got baked in at build time. A bind mount is different from a volume because it's a real folder on your machine showing straight through. Save the file and it changes inside. It does depend on your host path and your host permissions, though, which is exactly why it belongs in development and never in production. Number 10 is environment variables. Without them, you build 1 image per environment, so you get 3 artifacts from 1 commit and only 1 was tested. So bake nothing in. You build one image once, test it once, and -e tells it at runtime whether it's dev, staging, or production. Those values sit in Docker inspect in plain text for anyone on the host, so use them for configuration and never for passwords. Number 11 is networks. Web wants to reach API, it has the name right, and it gets back could not resolve host. Put them both on a network you created, and Docker runs a DNS for it, so the container name becomes the host name. Nothing else changed. This answers a question you may have had. The default bridge has no name resolution, which is why Compose services resolve each other and Docker Run doesn't. Number 12 is the bridge network, and it's the one every container joins if you never say otherwise. One subnet, one gateway on the host. If you inspect it, you can see the members and their addresses. Everybody is reachable, but only by those numbers, with no names at all. Those numbers get handed out again on restart, in whatever order things happen to come up, which is precisely why you never hardcode one. This is Act 3, and it's worth counting what you now know, because that comes to 11 separate flags. Ports, volumes, mounts, environment, and networks, all of it correct and all of it typed by hand. Nobody does that twice. Number 13 is Compose, and this is the payoff for the whole first half. Here are 3 services, and look at what launching them by hand costs. Every one of those flags now lives in a file, and this is the command. It creates the network, the volumes, and the start order for you. Compose runs on one machine, though. It's a development and single-host tool rather than a cluster, and it won't survive that machine dying. Number 14 is the Compose file itself. It's services with a handful of keys under each one, and there's nothing new to learn here. Look at the keys. Ports is -p, volumes is -v, environment is -e, and they are the flags from Acts 1 and 2 written down. The cost is that it looks like production without being production. One override file becomes 4, and dev and prod quietly drift apart. Number 15 is logs. The container is running, you've detached from it, and you have no idea what's happening inside. Docker kept everything it printed, and the real problem is 3 lines down, where it says it cannot reach the database. Docker only collects standard out and standard error, so an app writing to a log file inside the container is completely invisible here. Log to standard out. Number 16 is exec. This container is serving traffic right now, and you want to look inside it without stopping it. Exec opens a process inside the running container with the same file system, network, and environment. It's the fastest debugging tool Docker gives you. Anything you fix in there dies with the container, though, and it isn't in your Docker file. So debug in here and fix it in the file. Number 17 is multi-stage builds, and this is the 1.2 gigabyte image I promised. A compiler, the source, the build dependencies, and the binary. Only the last of those is needed. You build in the first stage and copy just the binary into a clean second one, which is 80 megabytes. The cost is that you now have to know exactly what to copy. Miss one shared library and it builds clean, then dies at runtime. Number 18 is the registry. You've built an image, and it exists on exactly one machine, which is the one you're sitting at. So push it. Now CI pulls it, production pulls it, and everybody runs the exact same bytes, which is what makes the earlier promise true. Tags can be moved, though. Latest isn't a version, it's a wish, so pin a real tag or pin the digest if you really mean it. Number 19 is swarm. Everything so far has been one machine, and losing that machine loses everything running on it. Swarm takes the compose idea across several machines. You declare 3 replicas, a node dies, and the manager reschedules the missing one somewhere else. Here's the honest bit. It works, it's simple, and almost nobody runs it. The ecosystem went to Kubernetes, so I'm moving on. Number 20 is health checks. The status says running and the process is alive, but the app inside is wedged and answering nothing. So give Docker a question to ask it. The probe fails 3 times, the container gets marked unhealthy, and something can replace it. That matters because running is not the same as ready. Without this, Docker will cheerfully route traffic at an application that died 20 minutes ago. Right, here are all 20 with their commands on one screen. There are 5 core nouns, 7 ways through the wall, and 8 for running and operating it. That is the whole vocabulary. 2 rules are worth keeping. An image is the output, A container is one run of it. Volumes hold data you keep, bind mounts hold code you edit. Go on, pause, and screenshot this one. One last thing, and concept 19 pointed straight at it. Same 3 services, same ports, volumes, and environment, but a completely different set of nouns. Compose stops at one machine, so the next video takes this exact compose file and rewrites it as pods, services, and deployments. One for the comments. Which of these 20 did you use for months before you actually understood it? Mine was bind mounts.